Have you ever witnessed something so strange that science can't explain it, but it made your heart flutter? One ordinary evening, on a small farm, a creature was born, but as soon as it appeared, it broke every rule known to man. A creature unlike any other, carrying a mystery that baffled scientists and made onlookers shiver with amazement. What happened? And more importantly, could it change the way we perceive life? Before we continue, comment where in the world are you watching this video. And if you believe in touching stories, don't forget to subscribe now, because tomorrow there will be a special story for you. On a small farm in rural Montana, where vast fields meet vast skies, Sarah Collins stands staring at Bella, the loyal Labrador who has been by her family's side for years. Bella is not only a trusted friend, but also an indispensable part of this house. She is smart, attached to her family, and especially always shows boundless love. But today, Bella is not like the previous births. Sarah senses something is different. Today, Bella's contractions are coming early, unlike usual. Sarah's beloved dog is panting, whimpering with each breath. Bella's body sways as if she's about to collapse, her eyes shining with extreme exhaustion. Sarah, an experienced dog owner, can sense the fear and uncertainty coming not only from Bella, but from herself as well. How could it be a normal birth when everything was happening so soon, so unexpectedly? Bella was 8 weeks pregnant, not too early for labor, but certainly not ideal. Sarah quickly called the local veterinarian, Dr. Mark Reynolds, whom she always trusted when faced with an emergency. But when Sarah's voice was anxious on the phone, Dr. Reynolds realized the seriousness of her words. He wasted no time, jumping into his car and driving away, his mind racing with the premonition that this birth would be different. By the time Dr. Reynolds arrived, Sarah had everything ready. He quickly approached Bella, felt her heartbeat, and began to examine her. A sudden wave of sensation washed over Sarah. "She's in early labor," Dr. Reynolds said, his voice calm but strained. Sarah knew that if this wasn't handled quickly, not only Bella, but the puppies could be in danger. A few minutes later, Bella let out a painful cry, her body convulsing violently. And then, the first puppy was born. Everything happened quickly, but so much was still unclear. The tiny puppy lay in Sarah's arms, weak but still moving, as if fighting for its life. The second, third, fourth. All the same, small and weak, but showing signs of life. The whole room breathed a sigh of relief, but in Dr. Reynolds' eyes, Sarah could see the unease that had not disappeared. "It's not over yet," Dr. Reynolds whispered, not taking his eyes off Bella. "Just wait. I think there's something else that hasn't happened yet." Sarah looked at Bella. Beads of sweat rolled down her forehead. Bella's body seemed so exhausted that she had no strength left. But strangely, there was a sense of something unclear. Was Bella going to have another puppy? Or was there something deeper going on inside her? The questions were all mixed up in Sarah's head, and she felt as if the world was slowing down. How could it make sense? She looked into Bella's eyes, searching for comfort, but saw only exhaustion and a fear that neither of them could hide. In that brief moment, a strange feeling washed over Sarah. Could it be that we were all like that? Do we sometimes feel like we've hit rock bottom, like we can't get any further? But then, something inexplicable happens. And then, in a ragged breath, another life was born. Sarah couldn't believe her eyes. Another puppy, but this one was different. not a weak creature like its siblings. The puppy had a coat of pure white, shining as if born of light. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine, and perhaps for the first time in her life, she felt as if something inexplicable was happening before her eyes. Was this a sign of a miracle or a warning? And is it only when we step into the greatest challenges of life that we truly realize that the impossible can happen? It's not over yet. The air in the room suddenly became heavy, as if all outside sounds were swallowed up at that moment. Bella let out a painful cry, her body convulsing violently, her legs shaking as if trying to fight off an internal storm. Her breathing became ragged and rapid, her heart rate skyrocketing on the monitor. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. This was not a normal sign of labor, especially after giving birth to 5 puppies. Her heart pounded when she saw Dr. Reynolds' eyes. No confidence, no calm, only deep confusion. "No way. This can't be right," he whispered, as if talking to himself. Bella convulsed harder, her eyes wide, filled with pain and panic. But what worried Sarah most was the fear in those eyes, a feeling she had never seen in Bella before. "Doctor, what's going on?" Sarah's voice was hoarse. She couldn't bear to look at what was happening before her. Reynolds didn't answer. He bent down, gently placing his hand on Bella's belly, feeling for contractions. But as soon as he touched her, he jerked his hand back, as if electrocuted. Bella let out one last growl, a pained groan echoing through the air. Then, with a powerful contraction, another life slid out. Sarah held her breath. Reynolds was stunned. Time seemed to stop. Another puppy had been born, but unlike any before. The light reflected off the puppy's wet fur, but instead of the typical creamy yellow of a Labrador, its entire body was snow white, shimmering like silver under the light. But the strangest thing wasn't the fur. Sarah felt her heart sink as her eyes met the little creature. Because as soon as it was born, it opened its eyes immediately. It couldn't be. It was impossible. All puppies close their eyes for the first few weeks, but this creature didn't. It opened its eyes wide, taking in everything around it with a sharp, alert gaze, as if it had been aware of the world since before it was born. But what took Sarah's breath away were those eyes, icy blue, clear, sharp, shining with something deeper than intelligence. They weren't the innocent eyes of a puppy. They were the eyes of something bigger. Dr. Reynolds swallowed, his usually steady hands shaking slightly. "This can't be explained," he muttered. Sarah felt her heart beat faster. This wasn't just any puppy. Bella, exhausted from the agony, still managed to lift her head to look at the little creature. Her eyes were filled with wonder, but not fear. It was recognition. Sarah suddenly remembered the legends she had heard from the elders of the land, of creatures born with different markings, carrying a message from nature. Could it be? "This is a sign?" "Doctor," Sarah said softly, but her voice was shaking. Could it be more than just a genetic mutation? Reynolds shook his head, his eyes still fixed on the puppy. "I can't say, but I can say one thing for sure. This is not a normal birth." The room became so quiet that they could hear the faint breathing of the other puppies. But while the other 5 were still shivering, fighting for their breath, the little creature stood up. It stood up. No one spoke. A newborn puppy couldn't stand right away. But the creature not only stood, it moved toward Bella, its small legs moving steadily. It didn't fall. It didn't tremble. It moved with an enigmatic confidence. Sarah took a step back, feeling like she was witnessing something no human had ever seen before. Dr. Reynolds quickly took out the device to check the strange puppy's heartbeat. But as he placed the monitor on the tiny body, he paused. The screen showed something he couldn't believe. A heartbeat. Slow, strong, but completely different. Unlike any newborn puppy's heartbeat. Sarah looked at the screen, then back at the creature before her. A question rang in her mind. A question she probably didn't want to know the answer to. What exactly was this creature? Just when we think we understand everything about life and the world around us, nature always finds a way to surprise us again. A different creature has appeared right before Sarah and Dr. Reynolds' eyes. But the biggest question remains, is it a sign of something bigger? Is this a new step in the evolution of nature? Or is it a reminder that we don't understand the world yet? In the dim light of the room, the mysterious puppy stood there, its blue eyes glowing, observing everything as if it knew everything. And then, just for a fleeting moment, Sarah felt something strange. She was no longer afraid. Perhaps instead of searching for answers, sometimes people just need to learn to accept that some things are meant to change everything. But, change what? This story is not over yet. It is just beginning. No one in the room said a word. Dr. Reynolds, who had dealt with hundreds of strange births in his 20-plus years of practice, had never seen anything like this. He was not just standing before a newborn puppy, but a living mystery, one that made his science and all of human knowledge more fragile than ever. The puppy did not cry weakly like its premature siblings. It was breathing steadily, its heartbeat strong, its icy blue eyes scanning its surroundings with a chilling alertness. Sarah stood there, completely transfixed. Her heart was pounding in her chest, not from fear, but from the sense that something bigger was happening right before her eyes. "This," she stammered, her voice cracking. "What does it mean?" Dr. Reynolds did not respond immediately. He bent down, gently picked up the tiny puppy, and felt its every breath, every heartbeat. Its body was small, but not fragile. The little boy looked stronger than the other puppies born into such challenging circumstances. There was no sign of illness, no sign of weakness. So, what was this creature? Dr. Reynolds knew there was only one way to find out. He needed to test the puppy's DNA. He immediately took a small sample of the special creature's tissue and sent it to the top genetics lab in the area. While he waited for the results, he spent hours observing the puppy. Its every move was different. While its premature siblings were still shivering, eyes closed, relying on instinct to survive, this little boy had his head raised, eyes following every movement of the humans in the room. This was unusual. A puppy shouldn't have such a strong perception. But as Sarah looked into his blue eyes, she felt something strange, as if this boy were seeing right through her. He didn't just see, he observed. He didn't just feel, he understood. And in that moment, Sarah felt something she couldn't explain. She no longer felt alien to him. She felt like she had known this boy for a long time. But how could that be? 2 days later, the DNA test results came back from the lab. As Dr. Reynolds looked at the file in his hand, he suddenly fell silent. An eerie silence. Sarah looked at him, her heart pounding. "What's wrong?" she asked. But Reynolds didn't answer. He flipped through the results, the numbers, the graphs. Then suddenly he put the file down and took a deep breath. "This puppy," he said, his voice shaking slightly. "Not quite a Labrador, Sarah frowned. What do you mean? Dr. Reynolds flipped through the test results, pointing to an unusual genetic sequence. It has a sequence that has never been recorded in any database. Part of it matches Labrador DNA, but the rest is completely unlike any other breed we know of. The room froze. Sarah felt her heart pounding. So, that means... Dr. Reynolds looked up, his eyes serious. We may have just discovered a completely new evolutionary step. No one knew for sure. To understand better, Dr. Olivia Carter, one of the leading geneticists, was called in to analyze the puppy's DNA further. As she looked at the results, she whispered, "This isn't just a simple genetic mutation." She took a deep breath. Its genetic makeup has sequences of nucleotides we've never seen before. Unlike any dog, unlike any animal ever recorded. Sarah was speechless. You mean, it might not be a dog? Olivia didn't respond right away. She placed her hand on the document, her eyes still glued to the computer screen. We always think of evolution as a slow process that takes thousands of years. But what if there were moments when nature decided to speed things up? The words hit everyone in the room like a shockwave. Could it be that they were witnessing a rare moment when nature created something entirely new? Sarah looked at the tiny puppy, now sleeping soundly in her arms. The little boy had no idea that he had just become the biggest question mark for all of humanity. Was it a rare genetic mutation, or a sign of a major evolutionary leap? Or worse, was something we had never seen before causing it? A mystery had been solved. But the more important question remained. If this was a new evolutionary leap, were we ready to accept it? And if it wasn't, where exactly did this creature come from? Sarah hugged the puppy tightly to her chest. A cold wind blew through the room, but she didn't shiver. She shuddered, with the feeling that her life had just entered something of no return. This had only just begun. Sarah stood by the farmhouse window, her eyes on the vast fields where Ghost ran through the tall grass, his powerful legs skimming the ground. The afternoon sun reflected off his snow-white fur, making him seem out of place. A ghost, somewhere between the real and the unexplained. She couldn't believe that only 6 weeks ago, this creature had been a mystery, quivering in the palm of her hand. But now, he was changing everything. Ghost was growing twice as fast as the other dogs. While his siblings were still clumsy with their first steps, Ghost was running. While the others were still sleepy and needing time to get used to the world, Ghost was watching, alert, perceptive, and aware. Sarah quickly realized that Ghost was more than just a smart dog. He understood. He learned. He connected with the world in a way no other dog could. Simple training that would normally take months to complete took Ghost just a few days. When Sarah called his name, he didn't just come running out of instinct. He came with a look in his eyes that said he was listening, really feeling. Dr. Reynolds noticed the difference too. One day, he stood next to Sarah, watching Ghost from afar, and mused. "Do you feel like he's reading our minds?" he asked. Sarah was startled. She had thought that before, but had never dared to say it out loud. But now, when Reynolds said the same thing, she felt a chill run down her spine. Ghost wasn't just smart. He seemed to know what others were up to. What was even stranger was Ghost's relationship with Bella. Sarah had thought it was just a normal mother-daughter relationship, a natural bond between two creatures of the same blood. But it wasn't that simple. Whenever Bella felt tired, Ghost would come closer. He would lay down next to his mother, pressing his face against hers, his icy blue eyes suddenly softening. And within minutes, Bella seemed to come back to life. Dr. Reynolds had been monitoring this phenomenon. He measured Bella's heart rate and blood pressure before and after Ghost came into contact with her. And something amazing happened. Every time Ghost touched his mother, Bella's vital signs immediately returned to normal. "This can't be happening," Reynolds said, his voice filled with amazement. "There's no scientific explanation for this." Ghost wasn't just a different creature. He had a strange effect on the creatures around him. But if he could restore Bella's health, could he do something else? News of Ghost could not remain hidden forever. Stories of the icy-eyed dog, who learned faster than any other dog and could heal quickly, spread. Scientists wanted to study him. Zoologists wanted to decode his DNA. Paranormal believers wanted to find out if he was a messenger of something greater. But Sarah knew one thing. Ghost was not an experiment. Ghost was not a phenomenon to be exploited. He was a living being. A living mystery, perhaps sent by nature to test human understanding. Reynolds continued to study Ghost's DNA, trying to find answers. But no matter how many times he tried, one part of his genetic code remained indecipherable. Another geneticist, Dr. Olivia Carter, looked at the results and said something that silenced everyone. "If we can't find this sequence in any known animal, where did it come from?" Sarah shuddered. If Ghost's DNA wasn't entirely canine, what was it? People could argue about the science. People could come up with any number of theories. But Sarah didn't need answers right now, because every time she looked into Ghost's deep blue eyes, she knew one thing. This boy wasn't an accident. He wasn't just a genetic mutation. He was a reminder that there were things in this world we didn't understand. Maybe Ghost was an evolutionary step we hadn't seen before. Maybe he's a gift from nature, sent to remind us that life is full of miracles. Or maybe he's something we're not ready to know. But whatever this little guy is, one thing's for sure. Ghost is more than just a dog. He's something bigger. And his story is just beginning. Life is full of mystery and wonder. And sometimes the things we can't explain are the most important. Ghost is more than just a dog. He's a symbol of change, of hope, and of things beyond human understanding. This story reminds us that nature holds secrets that science has yet to grasp. Is Ghost an evolutionary leap or a miracle sent by the universe? That's probably not as important as the lesson he teaches us. Sometimes we need to learn to believe in things that are beyond our understanding. That every creature in this world, no matter how small or different, has a reason to exist. And that, even in moments that seem impossible, miracles can still happen. Looking at Ghost, we can wonder, how many wonderful things are around us that we have never noticed? How many moments do we miss because we don't dare to believe in miracles? If you feel the extraordinariness of Ghost, if this story touches your heart, please like to spread this message. Please share so that many others have the opportunity to discover the miracle of nature. And now, leave a number from 0 to 10. How would you rate this story? But wait, don't leave yet. Because at the end of this video, we have another story, even more mysterious and emotional, waiting for you to discover. Do you dare to continue this journey?